It happens to all of us. You prepare for days, you lose sleep worrying about it, you finally get up on stage and you freeze. You practiced over and over, but once you stand on that stage, you're frozen stiff. You start talking and you immediately know you sound nervous. You don't feel natural, you don't feel confident, you feel stiff and on edge. This is a common problem in public speaking, and fortunately, there is a very simple solution. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to do. Hi, I'm Dave Mack, and I've been a public speaker and public speaking trainer for over 16 years now. I've trained CEOs, executives, and managers of global organizations how to deliver confident and engaging speeches. So let's get into it. Here's the problem. You don't look confident. You know you're speaking in a halting and unnatural way, and you know the audience can't wait to get this over and done with. And the thing is, this is completely within your control to fix. You've unintentionally set your speech up to be much more difficult than it needs to be. You see, the mainstream view of public speaking is that it's rigid and ceremonial, and you can't possibly make a mistake, and at all times the audience is judging you. But here's the reality of public speaking. Public speaking isn't rigid and ceremonial. Public speaking is just communication. The view on not being allowed to ever make a mistake is not practical, and the idea that everyone in the audience is judging you is the opposite of what's actually happening. Let's look at these three things: communication, mistakes, and being judged. The first one, that public speaking is just communication, is really, really, really important to remember. Typically, when someone's getting a speech ready, they've got a couple of things in their mind: preparation and practice. And the preparation part is writing it out, and the practice part is reading through it, remembering what you've written, practicing without the script, and doing this over and over and over. Now, there's a massive problem with this. The first thing is that when you stand in front of the audience to do this delivery, you're trying to focus all your energy in remembering what it was you practiced. And it's really difficult, especially when you have very tight deadlines to get a speech ready. And so you end up sounding quite robotic when you're standing on stage as you try to remember parts of your speech, and you're saying it almost as it's written. And typically when we write something out, we write in more formal language than we speak. So that makes you sound a lot more robotic. Additionally, when you are repeating a memorized speech, the way you typically do your visual communication, for example, your gesturing and your facial expressions and the way you move, is stilted, and it doesn't come across naturally. And again, this adds to the feeling of being robotic. So what we actually need to do is, when we're practicing our speech, we need to do it without having this rigid script written out. Practice it by talking about some ideas rather than trying to memorize every single word in your speech. And assuming you know your subject matter really well, expanding on some talking points should be quite easy. Now, the important part about this is to remember it's just communication. And we do communication every day. We communicate with people every day in different aspects of our lives. So it should be natural for us. But when we talk about it being a speech or a presentation, this puts this feeling of you have to do it in a certain way, you have to do it in a rigid, formatted way into our mindset. And that's when we start becoming much more formal, writing out the script, that kind of thing. Let's imagine it in this context. Let's imagine that you meet a friend in the shopping mall, and your friend is asking about, how has your day been? Well, you don't have to practice talking about that, right? So you're naturally going to say, it was a bit of a nightmare today. I had to get up so early to get everything prepared because my kids are going on a school camp. And then while they were getting ready for school, I was running around cleaning things up. And then I had to drive them to school. Then I came back and I had more housework to do. And then I went out to run some errands. And it's just been a nightmare. Now you can see that because it was something that I know quite well, I'm talking naturally and my gestures are natural. Now, if this was a script I'd written out and practiced beforehand, then it's going to look a little bit more like this. Today was such a nightmare. I woke up early this morning, about 4 o'clock, because the kids were going to camp. And I had to wake the kids up very early so they could get ready. While they were eating their breakfast, I was running around doing some cleaning. And then once I'd taken them to school, I came back, did more cleaning, and then I had to run out and do some errands. So you can see it starts to become very unnatural because as you're practicing the script, you're also thinking about like, how should I move when I say this? How should I gesture when I say this? If I say to, should I do this? And the whole thing becomes robotic. Instead of practicing in this way, like practicing for perfection, just think about, I need to communicate a message to the audience. Now, the next thing we talked about is mistakes. Now, this is something that can feed into making you very rigid on stage, very stiff on stage, because you're so focused on not making a mistake. I can't make any mistakes. It needs to be perfect. Now, the reality is no one's perfect. We all make mistakes. And some of the most seasoned public speakers make lots of mistakes in speeches. The reason they get away with it is because they don't draw attention to those mistakes. So I've got a golden rule for speeches, presentations, public speaking. If you make a mistake, just move on. So if you make a mistake, you say something wrong, you say something out of order, you miss something in your speech, just move on. If you forget to say something, just move on. Don't go, I made a mistake. I forgot something. I need to go back. Because then you're just drawing attention to it. And you're telling the audience, don't trust me as much as you did before. Just move on. Just go on to the next thing. If it's something you missed and you can fill it in later without drawing attention to it, then do that. In most cases, the audience will not know that you made a mistake. They will not know that you forgot something unless you tell them. And even if they do know that you made a mistake, even if they do notice that you've forgotten something, all that making a big deal of it as you're standing on stage will do is end up frustrating the audience because they feel like, okay, I don't care if you've made a mistake, just rectify it and let's go. Because they're sitting in the audience to get some information. They don't need it to be perfect. So, golden rule. If you make a mistake, if you forget something, just move on. And the final thing to help you relax when you're on stage is a lot of people feel like, especially if they have a speech to deliver in front of work colleagues or friends, they feel like everyone in the audience is judging me. And again, this feeds into the I can't make a mistake and everything has to be perfect and it needs to be rigid and ceremonial and all of this kind of thing, right? Because the audience is judging me. So I have to do it 100%, no mistakes, perfect, the whole thing. And it doesn't need to be this way, right? Because the audience are not judging you. The audience wants you to succeed. If the person on stage falls over or the person on stage forgets to do something or can't work some technology, whatever it is, you're in the audience. You feel uncomfortable. You feel kind of bad for them. You don't want, this is not something you wanted to happen, right? That's how all audiences feel. The audience the audience is actually kind of connected to you because the audience knows how difficult it is to stand on stage in front of an audience and talk about something, right? The audience doesn't want you to fail. They are not judging you. So try and get that thought out of your head. The audience isn't judging you. They support you because if things go wrong, it's uncomfortable for them too. They want you to have a win. They want you to succeed. So remember that. The audience supports you. If you make a mistake, just move on. And public speaking is just about communication. It's not about perfection. It's not about ceremony. And just relax. And if you want to discover the best way to prepare your next speech, watch this video next.